Hey everyone, Walter Haydock here. Welcome back to the Deploy Securely podcast, where I go deep on cyber risk management for AI systems and applications. Today I'm going to talk about something that I call sensitive data generation. And I think the most potentially overhyped risk with LLMs and AI in general is unintended training, which is where you potentially train an external model on data that you didn't intend to, and that data becomes available to another party. But frankly, I think there's a much bigger problem, and that's sensitive data generation. This happens when a person or organization makes data available, either intentionally or unwittingly, to an AI model that, by itself, the provider of the information would not consider sensitive, as opposed to unintended training, where the data provided is itself sensitive. But when the aggregated results of these discrete pieces of non sensitive data are combined and collected with other information, the AI model can produce outputs that the individual or that the provider would consider to be sensitive. And there's a recent paper that came out that looked at this phenomenon, and it found that current LLMs can infer a wide range of personal attributes, location, income, sex, achieving up to 85% or even 95% accuracy at a fraction of the cost and time required by humans to achieve the same results. And this paper shows an incredible example from a Reddit post in which the researchers infer huge amounts of personal information based on some innocuous seeming posts by an anonymous user. So definitely check it out. I'll put it in the show notes. On top of the obvious implications here for GDPR compliance, which will likely demand or will drive demand for solutions like machine unlearning, as well as privacy more broadly, there are other risks. For example, given enough context and tidbits of information made publicly available, LLMs can likely reproduce through inference unannounced but planned key executive changes, material non-public information for public companies, or trade secrets. All right, so I'm going to pause here for a word from our sponsor, which is StackAware. As you probably know, I really do enjoy discussing AI-related cybersecurity, compliance, and privacy risks. And I'm now helping organizations identify and mitigate these things in their networks and applications. So if you're interested in setting up an assessment, please head to stackaware.com. You can get all of the details on how I run assessments, on what the prerequisites are, on what the deliverables will be at the end of the assessment. And you can also see case studies from organizations like Cobalt Robotics, Reputation, and Encore, who have all improved their AI security posture after conducting a StackAware risk assessment. So please head to stackaware.com for all the details, and you can set up a call directly from that page. All right, getting back to the show. So now that we've identified these risks related to sensitive data generation, the key questions are, what should we do about them? So I've got 4 points that I'll make. First of all, in the short term, make sure you're thinking about these challenges as part of your AI governance program. So definitely incorporate considerations about sensitive data generation into your policy and let your employees know that this is a risk. So anytime they post something on social media or in a blog post, make sure that they understand it can be combined with other pieces of data to potentially intuit sensitive information that your company might not want the public to know. And just alerting employees to this phenomenon can help mitigate some of the risk here. Number 2 is focus most of your effort mitigating sensitive data generation risk as it relates to heavily regulated data like personal information, potentially material non-public information. But I think the latter will be much harder to control due to a lack of formal definition and essentially the infinite forms that it could take. I think eventually companies and regulators will need to rethink the concept of MNPI entirely. Number 3, on the personal data note, be prepared for hugely impactful regulatory decisions, most likely coming out of the European Union when it comes to privacy and AI model development and training. For example, EU court decisions have already forced companies like Meta to completely redesign their business models to operate in Europe. And this is primarily because of their reliance on advertising to support the business model, but the same consequences or similar consequences I think we can expect for organizations that are using AI to run their businesses. So to deal with this, consider having an emergency decommissioning plan for any potentially impacted AI systems. Understand what the business consequences would be of essentially ripping these out of your processes and procedures and operations at any given point. And then also B, look at your willingness to block EU data subjects from using your products. So for some businesses, this could be a complete showstopper, and others it might not be that big a deal, but definitely make sure you understand this in advance. And then longer term, I think you'll just need to accept that trade secrets and other proprietary information will have a shorter half-life, so to speak, of competitive advantage due to the combination of AI and basically ubiquitous posting on social media. For example, I doubt the famously secret formula for Coke will remain a secret indefinitely. Building in public is also going to become the norm because speed and generating marketing buzz will become relatively more important than developing proprietary solutions in stealth. And yes, all of this is going to be very disruptive, but you need to be prepared for it. And I'll be here to help you along the way. That's it for today's episode. And thank you very much for listening. Please do like, subscribe, and share with anyone who you think might be interested in the Deploy Securely podcast.